Hello everyone. It's episode 24 of the Green Room podcast, and I'm here today with Arcane Soaks, who actually was the first
Yo,
guest
man.
first guest I ever had in the show, and that's nearly a fucking 2 years ago now already. We've done a few gigs together, we've done a few songs together in the past, all around a guy that I hold a lot of high praise for because he's quite unique and an eccentric character. I do like his online villain persona. Bit of a top G, you know. So fire away. Right, this is actually a double episode. So this is an episode of my podcast and an episode of his podcast. So I'll fire away and let him introduce himself and what he plans to do.
Yeah, yo guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Soaks TV. I'm here with DJ motherfucking Green, producer, rapper, aficionado. What do you call yourself? Don't let me tell you what you are. What do you call yourself? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I was once called by a reviewer Jack of all trades, master of none, but I don't think that's true anymore. On Gap Year Forever, you dick.
You've just got ADHD. You're not a jack of all trades. You've just got ADHD.
Just I like money, you know, and if you do lots of different things and pretend to do them, you can make money that way.
Yeah, yeah. Mm. It's hard to navigate all these side hustles nowadays.
It is, unfortunately, it is
There's a lot
indeed,
of shit.
but I like I like putting in a lot of work to that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like it is a lot of work, but I prefer to be doing that than waking up and have to do something I don't like doing for more money. Do you know? I prefer the grind myself at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's finding that balance. Like, I think a lot of people, as long as you're doing something, but a lot of people kind of, they say, "Well, I'm escaping the rat race." You're a slave in the matrix. It's like I would rather work a 9 to 5 and sit around, smoking pot and digging lint out of my belly button. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's escaping the rat race, and that is noble.
Yeah,
But what is the alternative? What are you going to do if you're not escaping the rat race? Because people like to think, well, I'll go traveling, I'll go and see the world. And it's like, that's only nice as a novelty. That's not that the novelty of that wears off after a certain point.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? You need structure, you need routine, I think, in your day-to-day life.
definitely, yeah. And like that, there you can still have that same kind of routine if you're dedicated, whether you are if you're not involved with the so-called rat race. Like I mean, I'd have a pretty set routine of what I would do every morning and every afternoon, bar the fact that I do kind of choose my own hours. So yeah, I know that I've got the time if I want to fucking sit around playing video games and smoking weed and doing nothing. But ultimately, it's
Yeah.
you're hitting a brick wall each time if you just do that without doing anything else. So
You don't enjoy it. You don't. The people that I know people like that.
they're miserable.
Just yeah, they're miserable. They're also like the kind of the dole merchants, the weed smokers, they love to talk about how they've broken free and they're not a sheep. Mate, I'd rather be a sheep if it gets me off my fucking ass and gets me out in the elements. Because this is the other thing with a job. And don't get me wrong, the ideal scenario would be to get a job in a field that you're passionate about. But at least with the 9 to 5 that you're not particularly passionate about, it gets you into the elements. You're in society, you're in the world, actually contributing and breathing in fucking prana and
Yeah.
talking to people. Um, yeah. People who don't work they're never happy. They're never content.
Like generally, like this is not to put myself above anyone, but anyone else who's kind of in my position that I know of are not people I generally interact with because they love to talk about what they're doing, but they're not doing fuck all. And it's just like I think I'm a lucky exception where I have the work rate and I have the genuine drive, but without the music and without the side hustles, yeah, I'd be no different to them. I'd just be sitting on my ass smoking spliffs and playing PlayStation all day, which and at least I can look at and be like, I'd be miserable doing that. I prefer to do it as a reward, to be like, you know what, like you've made a bit of money or you've got some plans to put something together or you've created something, now you can arse about. But the actual life of just like without that and that just being your sole existence, it's like you have to be a certain kind of person to not even look in the mirror and be like, I'm 29, and best part of my day was the wank I had and smoking the 50,000th joint that I smoked. You know what I mean? Like, so Yeah, I really don't know what it's like to be in that mindset. Like, I just couldn't live with it myself personally.
Mm.
Like, just because I'm not kind of in the rat race working 9 to 5 doesn't make myself lazy or unambitious or undriven. Um,
Yeah.
I do have a significant amount of that, and I have been commended on it a few times. But generally, in a lot of cases, that's not the way people are. You know, it's like it took me a long time before I ever made a penny off anything music related. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm.
but of course, I suppose the love of the passion as well is what drove me for years and years. I never got into it for money. I never thought I'd really make anything or do anything exceptional besides make a few songs or whatever. But I was lucky enough that it worked out in some level. And hopefully
Yeah.
continue that way, and I'll be, a fucking billionaire by the time I'm 28.
Yeah. By the time this podcast drops, bro.
Yeah, if
But
anyone wants to invest in me there, like fire away.
yeah. Come on. Um. What was I gonna say? Yeah. And the irony is, when you're doing it for the passion, that's when the money comes.
Yeah,
When you're chasing the money runs away. But when you're doing it because you just enjoy it, and you're not even focused on the money, you're like invested in the passion, and because you're passionate about it, you're putting out so much value because you're enjoying it. You
yeah,
know what I mean? It's kind of like, like when people talk about going to the gym, they say, well, you know, drink black coffee, or if you're fasting, for example, people say drink black coffee. Well, if you don't like black coffee, you're not gonna fucking enjoy it. So if you want to put some milk in, put some milk in, and maybe you'll put on a little bit of extra weight through that milk. But in the long term, it's going to pay off because you're going to stick with it because you enjoy it, and you're going to
yeah.
reap the rewards. And the rewards are going to come after the fact. You're not, but don't chase the rewards themselves.
I find a lot of people will look from the outside and they like the idea of being an artist or being a musician, but they don't realize how much work actually goes into it and how you can actually put in fucking 10 years of work and go nowhere, if things don't work out. A
Yeah,
lot of it is luck in some level. It is kind of who you know. You could be the most talented guy on the planet, but if you don't have a grasp of networking or social media or putting yourself out there, it possibly won't work out. Because I know plenty of people who are fucking twice as talented as me and just never really did much with it. And I've dealt with a lot of people coming kind of in and out of my circle where it's like they look at me and they're like, I like the idea of kind of, people knowing me and like going into a venue and, not having to pay and like getting a free pint. It's like,
everyone dapping you up, and
they're
yeah,
nice little benefits, but like, that's like they're small benefits for a lot of effort and a lot of gigs that didn't go well, a lot
yeah,
of songs that were shite, a lot of fucking, I didn't just decide to become a producer or an artist and everyone was like, oh yeah, man, that's cool. Like for the first couple of years, people either laughed at me or didn't give a shit. Like most of my mates were kind of like, oh yeah, he's, just making beats or whatever. We'll see how that happens. And eventually it was like, oh, you've actually been doing this for a long time. I'm actually listening to one of your songs. It's like, oh yeah, maybe you would like, and then yeah, it slowly starts to come together. But like, I never got into it for, the praise or to kind of be elevated above people when I walk into places. But I've definitely come across that so much. And it's kind
yeah,
of like, I made a song, how come I'm not famous yet? It's like, well, the song was shite and you're a dickhead. So it's like, that's just basically what
yeah,
happened.
yeah. It's. I mean, there's no denying that it is a nice little ego boost when somebody gives you praise at a gig.
Sure,
But
yeah.
yeah, you can always sniff out the wheat from the chaff. You can after a certain period of doing it, you can see who's in it for the long haul, who's in it because they actually feel that fire in their belly versus who's just doing it for the pat on the back. Do you know what I mean? And those people die off. They die off like deer flies.
Oh,
They'll
yeah.
do it for a year. And what I see happen is, and this is the same with doing podcasts as well. People will do it, and it'll blow up. Um, in their hometown because all their friends will be sharing it, friends of friends will be sharing it. And then like the first episode might get like 2,000 views, and then it'll go down to 1,800, and then 1,400, and then they do like they talk about how they're going to stick with it and how they're so passionate about it, and then they get to like 400 views and they see that decline and like, oh well, it's not really worth the hype has frazzled off, so
Yeah.
I'm just going to stop doing it. Those are the people who are in it just for the instantaneous gratification.
Yeah.
Whereas I think of it like adding, like say you had like a shot glass and you were trying to fill it with ink with an ink dropper. I think of it like adding in a little drop every day, day by day. And I get excited off just adding the drop. I'm not chasing the filled glass.
Yeah.
I'm getting fucking aroused over just the little drops. You know, the knowing that you're building something that's gonna pay off in the future, even if it's just drips and drabs. Like I noticed recently I went on a DistroKid, and I noticed that I've been paid a little bit more than like the past couple months, and every month or every time I check, I'm noticing it's just going up bit by bit.
Yeah.
I would rather have that. I would rather endure the trials and tribulations, and I would rather it come through in drips than drop one banger. Okay, everyone in my hometown shares it. I get like 10,000 streams, but then by the next track it's half that. Next track it's a quarter of that, and it. Do you know what I mean? Because that's just people sharing it because they know you.
Yeah, no,
I don't want people to. I don't want people to share it because they know me, and it's the same with going to gigs. I don't want the people to come to the gigs because they know me and they want to support me. I want them to come because they actually enjoy the content that I'm putting out and they genuinely want to hear. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, like on some level, like, you know, if you're kind of, you know, you're struggling for numbers, or, you know, you're kind of you need that bit of boost, I would appreciate it if my friends came regardless, you know. It's like, whether you, because I would do it. Like I've got mates who might make music that I don't necessarily listen to, and I might not even be in there while they're performing. But I'll come in, I'll pay in, and I'll tell people to come regardless. And I go to loads of gigs around the place that, like, I'm not necessarily into what's being played, but I'll go for the sake of making up the numbers, you know. But of course, I don't want people to feel like they're obligated to go. I was like, I do want you to go because you actually enjoy it on some level. Like, whether or not it's the music, at least the crack it brings, you know. And I don't feel like I have a lot of friends that just come for the sake of it, you know, because I put on so many fucking gigs too as well. They can't make them all. They can't pay to go to all of them, and they obviously can't make the time, which is fair enough. Generally, in my case, it's mostly, I guess you could call, the fans, and then the kind of gig community in Galway is quite small, so everyone kind of goes to each other's gigs just for the crack, regardless of what's being played. So I'm lucky enough to kind of be in that situation where I don't have to be too worried about making up the numbers and selling tickets. Usually things go pretty smooth. But you know, I agree with that statement. Yeah, like, don't just go for the sake of it. Of course, I want people to actually enjoy it. You know.
Yeah, although I will say that most of the time, even if people are coming to sport not necessarily because they like the music itself, they always enjoy the atmosphere in of itself. Because rap gigs, even if you don't like rap, I mean, I don't like metal music, but a lot of the time the scene over here in Newcastle, the metal scene and the rap scene kind of blend. There's a lot of people doing the kind of like alternative rock / rap music.
Yeah.
So there'll be like these emo kids on before the rapper, and then like there'll be some rappers, then more emo kids. And even though I don't like the music, I'm getting hyped off the atmosphere in and of itself. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it's very hard. I think it's hard to go to a rap. I think it's hard to go to any gig and not enjoy yourself, even if you don't particularly like the music.
I find it's the hardest to sell to kind of, like, say, because I would run a number of different types of gigs, and like if there's kind of strangers walking in the door and I've got bands playing, it's very easy to convince them to come in. But if you're like, oh, there's a bunch of random rappers you've never heard of, 9 times out of 10 they're going to turn around and walk off, which is fair enough. It's definitely harder to sell, and like the ticket sales difference, like I usually have most of the gigs with bands sold out before the night's even done, like, whereas with the rap ones, it's usually like a handful of online tickets and the rest are kind of either strangers or maybe like 10 or 20 people that were going to go anyways, you know. But they also knew that it wasn't going to sell out, so that's why they came and didn't buy online tickets, you know.
That's interesting, because rap is the biggest genre at the minute. So are you targeting? Do you think that's because you're targeting boomer? Are you targeting boomers, or are you?
No, not necessarily. Like, say,
what do you think that is?
Well, like for one, I'm with the hip hop gigs, I'm usually performing, so I'm not necessarily on the door to like witness what's kind of going on. Usually I have the bouncer or one of the staff members there. Whereas with the band nights, I'm not performing, so I'm on the door and I can kind of see the interactions and stuff like that. It'll be a mix of people. The venue I kind of do most of my gigs in, Orson na Gael, would kind of get a mixed crowd, but it wouldn't be the first place a lot of students would go, you know. It's kind of more the alternative kids. You kind of see a lot of the art students there, and a lot of the more kind of creative kids, as opposed to your kind of mainstream college kind of spot kind of people. Like, they wouldn't kind of go in and out of there. So like yeah, like there would be kind of older people that would be more like inclined to stroll in and ask what's going on and how much is it and who's playing, etc., etc. And I have found
Mhm.
like, at least at the very least, if it's bands, they'll engage with you. But if as soon as you say rap, 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh fuck that, unless they're quite young, they're usually like, good luck, and that's fair enough. It's a generational thing. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, like again, as well, it's not just that it's rap, because rap is the most popular fucking genre in the world. But it is, there's like the stigma against Irish rap has died out quite a lot, but it's still there. The average, there's a lot more people who are into it. There's way more of a fan base and people who tune into everything. But there still is that general stigma where it's like, someone could listen to fucking UK hip hop religiously, and you could show them
Mhm.
an Irish rap song and it'd still be like, oh fuck that, like, even though it's the same except the accent is different. So unfortunately,
Yeah,
that is the thing that still affects the scene.
that's a shame. I don't know. I think Irish. I don't. Do you think Irish rap is similar to British rap? I mean, it's.
I find at least my kind of preference for a lot of the modern stuff that comes out that I actually like and listen to is the stuff that kind of mimics the high focus kind of style of stuff. I find a lot of the northern stuff especially sounds quite like a lot of that stuff, and that's the kind of stuff I like to listen to. I'd find like a lot of say ODC's kind of stuff would kind of
Yeah,
have that vibe. And that's what I like.
not quite as lyrical, but yeah.
Well, I mean, in some cases, I'd say more lyrical. I think fucking Steve Lockman is one of the best rappers in the country. Like,
Steve Locke is, yeah.
fucking lethal and putting out
No,
projects.
Mac and Marks are. No, yeah, well, yeah, no, you're
No,
right. Mac and Marks are
the two
good
boys
too.
are great too. Like, I'm not saying that at
They
all.
just have no work ethic. They just have no work ethic. But that's not. That's not. I know. I'm not gonna. I don't want to badmouth them. On the
Well,
podcast.
they'll know by the look on your face you're taking the piss anyway. Like, but Steve does have an exceptional fucking work rate, and I would find
Yes.
that kind of sound. It's grimy, but it's also real. It's not boot
Yeah.
and fucking exaggerated shite. It's right on the fucking penny, of that scene and what they're about, and which is quite similar to High Focus for the most part as well. They're very successful, but they're not driving McLarens and they're not fucking talking about bitches and hoes and all that crap. It's
Yeah.
pretty on the money of like real life stuff for the average kind of MC, whether or not they're filling off festivals or not.
Hmm. Yeah. Steve Locke is top bins. Like, I mean, The Truth. Have you listened to The Truth? His album, The Truth.
Is that the latest one?
No. It's one of his first ones, like 2018. It was like his big like great big album that he dropped
He has a
when he
good few
first.
now. I can't think of that one off the top of my head. I do have a couple of his albums on CDs, but I don't think I
The
have that one.
Truth. It's the one where there's like a kid standing in
Oh
front
yeah,
of like
that's
paramilitary
actually his as
vans.
well. Apparently,
I didn't know if it was or not. I didn't know if it was him or if he
he
was
said
trying
it
to
to me.
pass on that it was him.
He said it to
Well,
me.
yeah,
So I mean, I'll take.
okay, I can believe it. I can believe it.
Yeah,
No, that album back to front. Like, I rarely listen to albums, especially not really Northern Irish hip hop rap albums, back to front.
yeah,
But that album back to front is a masterpiece. Like, I, and like to the point where I can only really appreciate how good each individual song is if I listen to it in its entirety. It's like Illmatic. It's like Belfast's version of Illmatic, where
that's a big compliment.
yeah, but like it just tells you the story of the same way Nas, was telling the
Yeah,
story growing up in Queens.
when you hear it,
It
you're
was
there,
like,
you're in Belfast in that
yeah, you're
time, just like you're in
like
New York in that particular time when you listen to Illmatic Life.
exactly. It blows my mind because I didn't even grow up in Belfast. I grew up in Lisburn, so I didn't really. I could kind of relate to it, but I could relate to it to the point where I got the slang and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
also, I was picking up on little bits and pieces that I wouldn't have been privy to, having not growing up in the capital city.
yeah,
But mate, that album is so good, and like I said, there isn't like one track that stood out to me. It was just the whole thing. You have to appreciate it in its entirety,
yeah.
to really get it. But yeah, Steve Locke is doing some good stuff. I haven't even really delved into his latest one, Heavy Islands.
I heard a couple of the singles off it. I haven't actually listened to the full one yet, but what the singles themselves were fucking savage. Like
Mhm.
there's not a whole lot of albums I find like even across all of hip hop that really nail kind of the scene and exactly like straight out of Compton. I can't picture anything but being in Compton at the time, that period
Yeah,
of time with all the stuff that was going on. 36 Chambers is another one. It just puts you in a fucking totally different world. In terms of Irish hip hop, the only one I can think of straight off the top of my head is the first fucking street literature one. What's it called? Products of the Environment, which came out maybe 2009 or so. Lunatic, Costello, For Real, GI, with a lot of fucking features from the Working Class Records boys, and it's like, while it's exceptional in every regard, from production to lyricism to all their performances, and all the guys are all in like their early 20s at that point, and they've still made some of the best Irish hip hop that's come out. It really puts you in that world, of like Dublin, that period, and the kind of areas they grew up like that, which is, is alien to people like myself from the countryside, you know what I mean? Like, so it's cool to actually hear an insight to that as well from people who are actually from there too, because everyone likes to pretend they're from the roughest place in the world when they're in hip hop, and 9 times out of 10 they're not. So, and it is funny how people who aren't from there usually act hard, whereas a lot of people who are from these places that are infamous are just regular people, and they're not talking about, oh yeah, like just because you're from there doesn't mean necessarily you were the biggest fucking rapscallion selling fucking gear and shooting.
Yeah,
but you probably witnessed it at some point, which is fair,
That is so true. The toughest are always the silent ones. If you have to talk about how anything you are, you probably aren't that.
Yeah, like it's
because you're just that. You don't need to announce it.
As rough as Ireland can be, like, we're not in some of the spots that a lot, like, I'll totally accept a rapper being braggadocious about how hardcore the life is if they're from Compton, or if they're from, the roughest parts of New York or the South or whatever, but Ireland, you know what I mean? Like, a gun gets shot every couple of fucking months, once or twice, and that's about it. Like, a few people get stabbed, and
you're not in Chirac, like.
That's just the circle of life. Unfortunately, it does feel like people these days, like, they wish, like, oh man, I wish just someone would get shot down the street from me so I could fucking talk about it. Like, it's fucking everyday shit, Like, I know.
Something else.
There's one rapper I know.
There's plenty to talk about.
There's one rapper I know, and it's like, if there's a fucking Garda car driving through a city, like, you'll have to put a video up on a story and be like, everyday shit or whatever, man. It's just like, it's a fucking traffic cop just parked up, or like, he's like, it's a guard like arresting some wino. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, the streets is real out here, man. It's like, fuck off, man. Like, I live in fucking Barna and I see a Garda car every day. Like, it's.
If you have to go out and look for something to write about, then it's not for you.
Yeah,
you can find something else. There's plenty to talk about. Like, I've never even really talked about that kind of stuff. Like, if there's nothing going on, write about fucking the secret mathematics, quantum mechanics.
If you have creativity, you can do it. Like, because I'm like, I write most of my songs just about myself, or just stupid shit, you know what I mean? It's like, if you've got a bit of talent, you'll pull it off, I feel like a lot of people do think, but because they're rappers, well, what do rappers rap about? Because even their knowledge of hip hop is fucking surface level. It's like, well, rappers rap about crime and that kind of shit. So, I'm gonna have to rap about that, or I'll have to try and, if you're not going to be that rapper, you have to be a conscious rapper. So you have to elevate yourself above everyone else and tell them, abusing drugs, believe it or not, it's wrong, and like, people are homeless and the government's bad. It's like, for me, it's like, I'll openly admit, like, my music is for myself. It's basically, all it is, not even a story, but just like me just spieling onto a page.
It's a form of therapy almost. It's a cathartic thing, isn't it?
I have a line in my upcoming album, like, I'm not here to touch your heart. You can up and suck my farts. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not, like, not to be ignorant about it, but like, I didn't get into music to, like, to speak to people, or for them to be like, wow, he really spoke to me. It's like,
you're not trying to change the world.
Yeah, here's my music. You can there's something decent in there. I like to think, I've gotten a few fans and a few streams and a few follows, whatever, blah 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 blah. It's like, there's something in there for someone. Do you know what I mean? But like, don't expect to kind of receive anything besides like just a slap across the face after listening to it. Do you know what I mean? Like.
Mate, it's the arts. It's recreational. It's not. It doesn't need to be activism, and you don't need to change the world. You're right. It's for you first and foremost, and if people like it, they like it. If they lump it, they don't.
Yeah, like,
you're still getting the same release out of it regardless.
Oh yeah, like, as long as I'm having fun, I'll keep doing it. You know what I mean? Regardless of the reception, but obviously, it is good. Like, it is encouraging too. If you do break past 1,000 streams on Spotify, or if someone buys your
Yeah.
album or whatever. It is nice. I
Yeah,
won't.
it's nice. It's nice when that little -1,000 sign disappears on Spotify. Like,
As an underground kind of artist, as I'd like to call myself, I can only expect so much, and I can only expect so much when I'm not meeting the criteria of what's generally liked as well. Like, I was like, I don't make my beat, they're not drill beats, and I'm not rapping about these 3, 4 subjects. So I'm not going to go into it with deluded notions of being like, oh, like, this is going to get 50,000 views. I was like, I know if it's good within this realm, it'll get 1,000 views, and if it's very good, it might get
yeah.
1,000. And if I get 5,000 views, fuck me, I'm delighted with that. Anything else is a bonus. So I have like a realistic view of all that stuff.
So do you not feel any element of? I mean, I think because I think we all do to some extent, but we just kind of choose how much we kind of give into it. Is that feeling of like, how much should I tailor my sound to appeal to the commercial audience? Is there not?
I would say I do it at
Do you
all.
have any of that?
I mean, like,
No.
the beats I make, I suppose, are a reflection of the kind of music I like, and the kind of music I like, tends to be quite well liked, which is, say, your general boom bap. Boom bap is the sound that's it's lasted through three decades, and it's, if not four, it's universally liked. So yeah, like, I mean, I'm mimicking that because I like it, as opposed to, other people like it. So I guess it works out for me in that sense. And in terms of everything else, like, I mean, I guess there's inspirations from Slim Shady or a number of rappers that, again, people like. So like, I think, yeah, I'm lucky like that. It just kind of works out. But there's no element of it like, oh, maybe if I fucking made the beat sound a bit like this, more people will listen to it. If people listen to it like that and they're thinking, oh, he should have done a trap beat, well, then I kind of prefer them to kind of come away from the track and be annoyed or dislike it, you know what I mean? As opposed to,
Okay.
I don't have any interest in doing that. I like, it has to be something I enjoy. And I have made stuff that could be considered more universal. Like, I've made some trap in the past, and even on my instrumental stuff as well, I made like some drum and bass there recently, and I made some like electronic kind of Aphex stuff, which, it's easier to sell a fucking artsy ambient tune than it is to sell a fucking rap about, tits and ass and shooting guns or whatever. But that wasn't for, oh, I'll get more streams or I'll get more likes or more people will like me. I was like, oh, I want to do something different. I like this kind of music, and it just happens to be something that more people will generally like, or guess, give more of a chance, which is
right.
fair,
Yeah, no, I get that. I feel the same, but I do genuinely enjoy some of the more. It's weird. Like, as I mature, I actually appreciate the melodic stuff as much as the lyrical stuff. It's kind of like, I think for most people, it's the opposite. It's like you like all the club bangers when you're younger, but then you kind of appreciate more. What would be the word? Like, more technically good music.
Yeah.
But I like the obnoxious. I like the Lil Uzi Verts and the Travis Scotts. I like that kind of music. It's different, forms of music for different scenarios. If I'm in the gym, I'm not listening to Dirty Dyke. I'm listening to fucking Juice WRLD, you know what I mean? I am, and I mean, because it gets me more hyped. I don't know what it is. Like, when I listen to the High Focus guys, or an MF Doom, or a Black Thought, it's like I'm listening to it because I appreciate the lyrics.
Yeah.
But if I'm in an environment where I'm not trying to sit down and digest every syllable that someone's saying, I'm trying to be more in my body than in my mind. Like, if I'm at the gym or at a bar or something, that's when you do want to hear the more commercial stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. I wouldn't say I'm on the same page when it comes to kind of more commercialized hip hop, and generally not when it comes to commercialized anything, at least the modern stuff. But I find, I do have a certain, appreciation for kind of, I guess, more nostalgic stuff that would be considered commercialized. Like, if I hear a Britney Spears song from like 2001, or, R&B from that era, like, it wouldn't be stuff I'd be listening to at home and digesting, and fucking, dismantling or whatever, be like, wow, but like, I'll get a buzz out of that, being like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, I'm only 26, but hey, I can remember those times. And, despite the song, again, being Britney Spears, not something I listen to, I would have a certain appreciation for it. despite it being commercial, I guess. But I mean, I guess like when it comes to, you know, different vibes and stuff like that, I would say I tend to kind of listen to the same stuff all the time. Like not just one genre, obviously, but I would kind of go through a cycle of the same stuff. There's not really kind of a time or period where like, okay, when I'm feeling this way or doing this or doing that, I listen to this kind of particular stuff or this particular stuff. You know, I guess when I'm listening to music, I'm walking about, you know, getting from place to place. So
Yeah.
I kind of have a massive playlist there that I kind of go through or whatever. And generally, I guess if I'm kind of trying to focus, I probably wouldn't really be listening to music. I'd kind of be sitting there in silence because I have kind of the free time to constantly be listening to shit, you know?
So you don't tailor your playlists to moods. That's
No,
interesting.
like if I'm in a mood, I guess I'm not really listening to music, you know? If I'm fucking pissed off, you know, like, I don't know, it kind of feels a bit like, you know, like a fucking angry 16-year-old. Like I'm angry, I'm gonna put on Linkin Park.
Not blasting the Def Leppard
I'm
kind of
fucking
stuff. No?
if I'm fucking angry, I'm gonna turn the music off and sit there and be like, all right, like how am I gonna kill this person? Like, you know.
Yeah.
And if I'm
Plotting.
sad, like, you know, you know, I'm fucking screaming at the moon or something, you know. So I mean, I guess yeah, I wouldn't really have that to a point. I guess the only one I can think of is if I'm fucking steamed and I'm walking home, I do like listening to some fucking metal, like gets me fucking hyped up. If I'm walking home and I'm trying to fucking speed ahead, like yeah, I'll put on some Megadeth or something and like
Yeah.
act like, you know, my back door is someone I'm trying to fucking track down or something like that. Especially the way it's fucking been raining for 3 fucking months straight this summer. I've had a few nights where I haven't had money for a taxi and I'm like, I have to walk an hour and it's like, it's not enjoyable. But like, if you're pissed and you got some metal, you just fucking run through it and be like, fuck this, I'm gonna get home. And sometimes I've made it in fucking exceptional time, like,
Yeah, you can run for miles when you're steaming like that,
oh yeah, yeah,
especially if you got the Megadeth blasting on the
exactly.
headphones. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm definitely my music's definitely tailored to moods. Like I have a gym playlist. I have a, you know, just like editing on the computer type shit. Gym, like drinking with friends, like. But I think there's an element of like I've maybe been conditioned to be like that in a
There,
way.
there is a
Like,
part of that that I definitely don't relate to in the sense that this is one thing I've noticed. Like, say at house parties, I'll always just play a song I like. I won't be like,
yeah,
okay, what'll suit this room? And I'll see people then like, you know, looking at it's like, who put that song on? Like this, and like eventually it'll take someone to intervene, like, this isn't the mood, like, you know, you're not playing the right songs, and like your song get turned off after 30 seconds, and then it's back to brain dead fucking techno. It's like, okay,
I I have fallen victim to that
I
many
hate
times.
that shit.
That's why I said I think I've been conditioned. Because yes, when I really think about it, if I was sitting at a house party or something, I would happily listen to like Slaughterhouse or you know Diabolic or whoever. I would listen to lyrical old school shit, but it's like I think I've been conditioned out of that, where it's like I've had for so many years now that I've been at uni. That I was at uni for 4 years, and like I think just over time, I kind of got in the mindset of no, when you're in this environment, you listen to drum and bass, listen to house music, you listen to. So like I almost because it was like kind of drilled into me so
Yeah,
many times. Now it's like natural where
you're
I
not
wouldn't put
smoking.
on Dead Prez at an after party. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, and all the popular girls look at you. Like, there's one, like, some people just don't even see the humor in it. Like, I mean, I don't use Spotify on my phone. I have like an MP3 player, so I have files there. And
So so
I just hate using, I don't like paying for shit, man. Do you know what I mean? I save money every month not using Spotify and not having 3G and all.
you've got it on like your files app,
Yeah.
so you can't even like
No, no, no.
do
It's I have but I have the files on my phone, but I have like an MP3 player app that like analyzes them, whatever. But like,
okay.
I might be flicking through my phone like at a party or something like that, and I'll be like, "Oh, Crash Bandicoot theme song." Like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'll
yeah.
put that on, and like, people don't even find it funny. They're like, you know, what the
Give me
fuck? Like, what even is that? It's like, it's the Crash Bandicoot soundtrack. It's like, why would you put that on? Like, this is a house
yeah.
party. It's like, but you like, I'm not putting it on in a serious manner. I was putting it on for a reaction, but the reaction
Ironically, yeah.
like, haha, it's like, you know, what, don't ever do that again kind of shit. It's like fucking
Yeah,
hell, like you and your I think it's, I don't know, man. It's people in their precious little universe. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, I'm here now, and we need to listen to this music, and it needs to be this vibe. It's like, you know,
they take themselves too seriously.
everyone needs to play the party game. Like, you know, you can't have a conversation in the corner, and you know what I mean. Like, I hate that shit. It's like let everyone do their thing. You know what I mean? As long as they're not fucking harming anyone. And
Yeah,
music
mate.
is
I have a sex playlist.
awesome.
The Rude Sandstorm, Jetpack Joyride theme tune.
You ever have sex to your own music?
No, I don't have sex.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, neither do
But
I. But I did
I
have
have
it
sex.
once. I did have it once before, and I was playing my music in the background, like,
What's
and
it like? What's it like?
like, well, I mean, I wasn't doing it like, oh yeah, I'm fucking a girl to my own music. It was just kind of like, haha,
No,
this
no,
is,
having sex, having sex.
oh,
Just
it's fucking bullshit, man. It's the worst thing I ever did, honestly.
die up, is it?
I cried the whole way through.
Mate. No, but what you're saying, what you're saying is right. Like, you know, I people do take themselves too seriously, man.
Way too.
Especially at like parties and stuff. I hate when I go in and the men are puffing out their chests and the girls are all like playing with their hair, playing hard to get. Like, can we just talk?
Even some of my mates, like, I'll do shit in public, like we'll be in the shop or whatever, like, and I'd be like just stand there next to a stranger. I'm like, oh man, where's the nappies? I'm about to shit myself. Like, and, like,
Yeah.
some of them will find it funny, but there's other ones. Like, I've had one mate, he's like, man, I'm not bringing you out in public anymore. Like, you know, you can't just be
Yeah.
saying shit like that in the middle of a pub or in the middle of a fucking shop. I'm like, that person's never gonna see us again. And like, to me, I
I
kind
know.
of find it funny that like me saying that could potentially, you know, ruin someone's day. Like, they go home and like, this guy talked about shitting himself in the shop. It's just like, I don't understand how you don't think that's fucking hilarious, you know? So like, yeah, like, I
Yeah.
get it to a point. Like, don't fucking make an absolute ass of yourself, but just saying something stupid in passing, like, you know, what's the harm in it? Live a little, you know? Because for me, like, the whole like waiting in line and fucking, you know, doing all the regular average Joe shit, fucking, it's as mundane and boring as fuck. You might as well make it somewhat exciting, you know?
You gotta spice it up. It's weird, mate, but like it's one of those things where I find it funny when I do it, but when other people do it, I get pissed off.
That's fair
Like
enough.
I'll do stuff like that all the time. Like I had a meme there for a while where I had a like series where I would just say a word. I would say like, what's that word when da 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 da, and then my friend Seth, I would do it. He would say the word, and then I would just start singing. It would be like, you know, what's the opposite of crash? Fly, and then I'd break into "Fly Me to the Moon" by Frank Sinatra. And it was funny when I was doing it, but I kind of understood why he was getting pissed off, because I was thinking, if he did that to me, or if a stranger was doing that, I'd just be kind of rolling my eyes like, fucking grow up. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's you enjoy it when it's you, but when someone else does it, if you're in a bad mood and they catch you off guard, it's like, it's kind of annoying.
We are going to talk about, I'll let you go ahead first. What are you working on at the moment? Are you working on any albums or EPs or music videos, or got any gigs coming up?
At the minute, I've kind of, music is kind of taken backseat. I've been doing mostly videography work for other artists. I've got a music video coming soon with a guy called Donald Jenkins. He's over here in Newcastle. It's called Lost. I don't even really like the track that much, but it was one of those weird ones where we kind of made the track as a throwaway, and then we started the video, and then he kept on getting like these locations. Like, we went to a boxing ring, we went to a castle, and we did like a scene with a tightrope walker and stuff. And I was like, the videos turned out really well, but I just wish it was for a better track. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've got that coming soon. That's going to be my next release. And then I've got a couple of videos that I've been working on with other people, like shooting it for other people. And motherfucking yeah, I mean, I've got like 100 tracks in the vault. It's just figuring out how to package it. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I've been recording non-stop for the past, like, since I got a mic, since I got a setup. Because it's what you were saying, it's always passion first. Like, when you love doing it, when it bleeds out of you, when it's all you can think about, you can't not be constantly recording.
Yeah, like, for the last 3 of my birthdays, so my 24th, my 25th, and my 26th, I released a project, an attention project, well, like one of my rap projects, supposed to me being the producer. And this year, it just kind of wasn't coming naturally to me. Like, I kind of made a couple of songs, but I wasn't really happy with them, and I kind of branched off and just worked on some fucking ambient instrumental shit for a while, and I came back to this, and then made a couple of songs, and I was like, ah, sure, I might have an EP, because I felt bad. I was like, I want that to be kind of a staple of each birthday, but obviously not do it just for the sake of doing it. You know, it's kind of nice to you know, to sit around with your mates on your birthday and listen to an album and like hear their thoughts or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, and like, but I didn't want to force it, obviously. But then I made a few songs, and I went back and listened to everything I'd made, which was about 20 tracks. And I was like, you know what? I guess I was just in a bad place. I was like, most of that stuff is fucking pretty good, and like still some of the best stuff I've made. So what initially was going to be an EP will probably be an album of about 12 tracks. And I honestly struggled. I thought, like, I kind of had in my mind, okay, these songs will probably make it, these songs are maybe, and these songs are all no. But then I'd say like 95% of them, I was like, they're all yeses, and there's a couple of maybes, and there was no song I heard where I was like, fuck, that's shite. Like, but of course, obviously, you shouldn't throw everything in there, because while like a couple of songs could be good, they might all technically be the same song, you know? Like, it's easy for like subject matter and style and kind of overall vibe to kind of overlap, which works in a sense, but you like, you know, you don't want 5 of the same songs. You'd like 5 of the same songs, or 5 songs on the same vibe, but not just 5 same songs, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, that'll be out September 17th. It's not officially announced yet. I still have to kind of, I'm gonna remaster everything.
It is now. It is now.
Well, like, I kind of I've hinted at it plenty anyways, and it's kind of expected that it would be out at the same time as the rest of them. I'm going to remaster everything and finish off the artwork, and then yeah, it'll definitely be ready in the next month and a half. And besides that, I had released that again. I guess, and this is not obviously, I'm not calling it this in terms of its overall, you know, exceptional level of skill, but the last project I made, which was the Music or Murder Part 2 one, the DJ Green one, which was like an Aphex Twin kind of style thing. Now, obviously, he's an exception. He's the best at what he does. But like, what I was going for was kind of like a multitude of different electronic kind of songs. So ambient, you know, kind of stuff that kind of sounds very like video gamey, some dancey stuff, some just kind of, in a way, kind of trip hoppy as well. And it's fucking very 2 hours long, and I made all of it when I was in Canada in a month, just kind of sitting whenever I had spare time, just sitting back on the laptop and putting this together. And I really enjoyed making it. Like, I've always wanted to make ambient stuff, but I felt I don't know what it is. I was like, I couldn't nail it down each time I tried to make it before, but this time I just went and fucked around with that kind of stuff, like big, long, like, you know, 10-12 minute tracks that are quite repetitive. And yes, more of a soundscape. And I made 5 or 6 of those, and they really, really worked, and I liked them a lot. And I used all of those for, like, I strictly used those type of tracks for the music videos I made for it. And then, of course, I had the last DJ Green hip hop album, which was the one you were on, the Joyous Corporate Dream, was the one that came out in November. And it's funny enough, whatever about it, the intro on that has gained serious traction. So the intro has like 50,000 streams, and then the rest of the tracks all have like 1,000 each. I don't know, like, it got into like some fucking Sigma male playlist on Spotify, and it's just been fucking being ripped.
Mate, that can happen. You can strike gold and just some random little like 14-year-old in TikTok just picks it up and takes a liking to it. And
here's the thing, it's been used, last time I checked, 6.5 million times on TikTok. Now the money from that I got from that was great on a general level. It'd be like, whoa, that's a lot of money, but when I compared the money with the amount of streams, it's fucking shite.
You get paid. I didn't realize TikTok actually. So
it's very low. It's very low. But if it's not if you get views or streams or whatever. It's if people use your music in the background of their videos. I'm pretty sure it's like 0.0001 cent or some shit like that. But obviously, times that by 6.5 million, it's going to be a decent amount of money. But in comparison to what it was shite. But again, I was fucking delighted, because I was withdrawing like 50 quid from my DistroKid just for like, oh yeah, I'll go out and have a few pints with that nice one, you know, nice to make a bit of money off music. And then I noticed the figures in my account didn't add up, and I was like, where the hell did this come from? And I checked. I was like, oh, TikTok. I was like, what the fuck? I didn't even know they paid me, to be honest. Like 9 times out of 10, all the money I was getting from DistroKid was Spotify, and maybe like a couple of cents here and there from just random streaming sites around the world. But it worked out really well, and that literally that one track has been like my main source of income from music. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy how that works. But I'm not
That's
gonna
a real confidence booster, though. That it just goes to show you that something can just blow up, and you can put out something and just a little niche. It just blows up in a little niche area. Like, I don't know. I think sometimes people think too much about like building a fan base. Like, it takes years and years to build a solid fan base.
Oh yeah.
And then one guy can just get lucky on TikTok. Like, it's so easy now on TikTok, mate. Like, I'm seeing just random people will just upload something. Some guy, no foundations, no real fan base, but it's like he's saying something that becomes a meme, or it's like a unique cadence, or the words he uses like a certain sequence of words that people can make TikToks with, like when you're when you're with your mates and somebody's bragging about something and they make a sketch out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they use that sound and it just fucking blows up. That's how Doja Cat got famous off TikTok.
Yeah.
Like, that's how she got famous, was just.
Oh, we can fucking tell, anyways.
She's not the best, but
like Pink Panthers is another one who got famous from TikTok, and like I think she's fucking savage. Your man that does that song After Dark, Mr. Kitty. Like, you look at the album on Spotify, and like that song is fucking like hundreds of millions of streams, and the other ones maybe have like 1 million each or whatever. And that is thanks to TikTok, and that particular song, and that song is constantly being used and used. So like, I like, for me, like, we're kind of going back to like curating your music to kind of suit the kind of more commercial vibe. Like, I know a lot of people who do that, and it hasn't worked out for them in that sense. Whereas to me, it was just totally by chance, that happened. I wasn't even aware of it till, first off, I just noticed my Spotify monthly listeners had shot up from like 300 a month to like fucking 20,000 or some shit like this, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, where is this coming out of? And then I know, I'm just all of a sudden as well saw the streams came through for the intro to my album. I was like, where the hell did this all come out of? What the fuck? And I just assumed it was just Spotify, but like, all it is like, and I did this for the last 3 DJ Green albums as well. Like, they were all kind of based around the Grand Theft Auto game, just because the first one I was playing GTA at the time, and I loved the kind of comic booky artwork, and I was like, oh, I'd like to do something like that for the artwork. And then I was like, oh sure, I'll have like some kind of GTA vibe around it. And each intro to each album was like, I guess it's the nostalgia factor. I would record myself like opening up the case, taking out the disc, turning on the PlayStation, opening it up, like putting the disc in, turning on the old school TV, where like it makes that noise and all the static fucking, whatever rises off the back of the big boxy TV, and then the PlayStation 2 intro plays, and then the kind of game starts loading up. That's all it was really, but I guess that's what I was going for initially, like hitting that market. Because I know nostalgia especially is a huge thing nowadays. People are addicted to it, like, and because of the internet, back in our parents' day, like, if they were like, oh, remember that cartoon I watched? Oh yeah, all I have is these vague memories of it. Whereas now you're like, I watched a cartoon once in 1998 with a dinosaur in it, and you can Google it and you can find it and you can watch it for 30 seconds and be like, oh man, I remember that. It was shite, but like, wow, Whereas at least in this case, GTA especially is such a universally loved thing. Like, anyone, whether you play video games or not, has played GTA and probably liked it. So I kind of knew it would kind of hit people in that little kind of place inside of them or whatever. And I think that's what happened here, is like a lot of people obviously have that nostalgia factor, and then fucking it just blew up crazily, which I guess that particular thing is more universal for me to sell than Irish hip-hop to a bunch of strangers, you know what I mean? So that's why again, it's so much more streams than the rest of the album, despite the songs being the main attraction for me.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I love those like montages that people make of like 90s kid ? Remember this?
Yeah.
And it's like the mat with like all the traffic on it, and Teletubbies or whatever.
Bad to me that that's so universal. Like, I mean, you kind of just assume, like, you might only see one of those mats or two of them in the past or whatever, but there's such a staple in your mind. And it's crazy to think that, like, millions of people from at least our region, which is the UK and Ireland, like, that have all experienced that. And, like, just little things like the aesthetics of restaurants and the aesthetic of the cinema and certain vibes that just, kind of, I guess you took for granted, they're just gone now, like, everything gets painted over and changed.
Yeah. It connects us. It connects us and shows that we have a lot. I think people talk about, what do we have? What do we have most in common? Is it our gender? Is it our race? I think it's our age. It's like, it's what you grew. It's the culture that you grew up around. And yeah, man, it's like seeing all these posts about like liminal spaces. Do you ever see this?
No.
Liminal spaces.
What is that?
Like I think the actual definition is like a transitional period.
Yeah.
So it'd be like pictures that you feel like you can vaguely recognize, but you don't. So it'll be something it'll be like a play park, but it'll be like a soft play area, but at night when nobody's in there, and it's just got this like eerie music playing over it, and it's like it's just. Yeah, it's like we all live the same lives. Basically, we all go through the same. We've all had the same kind of upbringing if we're of the same age, and I think that's a good that's a good niche to tap into, is like nostalgia. I was thinking of making a song based on the theme of like liminal spaces, because it's such a trend now on TikTok. But I am actually interested in it as well, because I find it so compelling that like you can just show me an image of something and we both get this weird feeling that we can't even describe.
Yeah,
we know what it is, but it's like it's very hard. If you look at these like liminal spaces or like old nostalgic pictures of like games that you used to play or whatever, it's like it's a feeling that you can't quite articulate, but we both know what it is, but we just can't communicate it to
on some level. I think it's like, again, when you're transitioning from like kids to preteen to teenager to young adult to adults to whatever, like you don't notice the transition. It just happens, and then like naturally you just
wake up and you're 25. You're 25.
And like you on some level definitely do take things for granted, like it's like, while I'm definitely happy with how I spent my childhood and my teen years and my younger adult, it's like, but I must have been able to make more of it, or whatever, like. And you
always think that, did I make the most? I should have taken more pictures, I should have gone to the park more. But no matter how much you did, no matter how much you've done, no matter how much a person has done, they're always going to feel that way.
Yeah.
It's like when someone dies, like when a family member dies, I always have that feeling of like, I should have gone and visited them more. I should have said I love you more. They're dead. They're gone. You know what I mean? You would feel that regardless how many times you told them you love them.
Yeah, like I find there is that element. At least not with everyone. Like as an adult, I love the fact that I can do what I want and I don't have to answer to like my parents or my teachers or any of that shit. That's a great part of it. Like you can just get up and go, and like that's probably one part you take for granted when you're thinking like, oh man, I'd love to be 6 again and just be playing with Lego and playing PlayStation and not have to worry about anything. It's just my world, and that's all I cared about. And like I just cared about my Lego Star Wars figures. I wasn't giving a shit about nothing else. But the other flip side is like, but like now I can get up and do whatever. If I want to go to fucking Japan, all I have to do is make enough money to do it. Like, I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So there's two great sides to it. But naturally, I guess as you start to get older and older and time starts to fucking age you and shit like that, there is I think that's what nostalgia is for a lot of people. They might not be able to vocalize it, but for me, I'm well able to say, like, I know for a fact it's just like, oh man, those were great times, easier times, simpler times, and I'd love to go back. I think people are almost scared to admit that on some level. Like they wouldn't mind on some level if they could go back and be 6 again, or go back and be 12 and just experience that, because you're not thinking of it at the time. You've no concept of like what it's going to be like when you're 25 or 30 or 40 or whatever. You're just in the moment. But
you've got the future to look forward to.
Yeah,
I think when you're a kid, it's like, because I mean, it's easy to romanticize the past and think, oh, it was all hunky dory back then. There were still problems.
Of course, yeah.
But one thing I think that you had when you were younger is like you'd be doing an activity and you'd be enjoying the activity because you're not conscious of death. You're like, the future is this thing it's like this golden shore that's far away and you're going to get there one day. But right now you're here. So in the back of your mind, you're like always like the future is always like in your mind. And like, I'm doing this now. And when I get older, things are going to get even better.
Yeah.
But I think as you get older, things actually get worse. You do have that freedom that you're talking to, like you can go to Kyoto or whatever.
Conscience definitely spoils things. I mean, I'm sure we've always had a conscience, but like I don't remember what my mind was telling me when I was 10 or what my mind was saying when I was 14. You know, it seems like something that just appears kind of out of nowhere. It's like, you know, oh yeah, you can't just impulsively do everything, and you have to kind of strategically do things, and everything has some sort of effect, and like, you know, you have to be responsible on some level or whatever. Like I do miss the days where it's like, yeah, go set that on fire, fucking throw that bottle, fucking scream, roar, shout, you know, awesome crazy debauchery. And like, while for me, especially as someone who was quite wild as a young fella and still am on some level, there's still an exceptional amount of stuff where I look back and I was like, man, I wouldn't even think about doing that now. Whereas back then it was just like, I don't give a fuck, I'm gonna go do that shit, like, you know. And I was like, I can't remember at any point a voice in my head saying like, maybe you shouldn't do that, or maybe do something else, whatever. Like, and I do feel, unfortunately, like obviously, yeah, conscience generally tries to get you to do the right things and, you know, go for the right option or whatever. But on some level, sometimes it's like when you're trying to just kind of have fun, it can kind of be in there like sticking its wedge in when it doesn't even necessarily need to be, you know.
Yeah, it's a constant battle, isn't it? It's a constant battle between like the kind of nihilistic, well, who cares, we're all gonna die anyway, versus like, yeah, but I'm here now, so why don't I try and make the world why don't I try to contribute to making the world as a better place to the best of my ability?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's what I kind of war with. Like I put up a poll just there on my Instagram, just asking, do you litter?
I see.
And my friend Scapey replied, and I had a whole conversation with him about how you do kind of switch between these two modes of like, sometimes it's just like, fuck it, I will just do this impulsive thing, I will just litter, I will just graffiti, I will just, you know, strip off in the street or whatever. But then it's like, there's also like, there's kind of a sense of abandonment, there's a sense of adrenaline you get out of that, but there's also something quite nice about being like, just being an upstanding citizen. Like,
yeah,
there's something nice about that, like just being normal. There's something nice about just like, I think just dressing normally, putting on a suit, waking up, going to work, holding the door for people, being pleasant. It's like, it's a constant balance between like, there's part of you that like wants to just go wild, and then there's part of you that there's that like animalistic, like you're an animal, you need structure, you need routine, because that's where your mood comes from. Your circadian rhythms control your mood. Yeah. So you need that kind of, that stringent kind of system that you work within. It's hard. It's hard. Like, as a kid, it's easier as a kid, because when you're a kid, you have a structure that you can't break out of. Like, you know, you have to wake up at 8, you have to be in school from 9 to 3, and so you're craving the freedom a bit more. It's like, you love going to the youth club where you can just run rampant around the room and like talk to people and go to the tuck shop and get a quenchy cup or whatever. But then when you're an adult and you can do that all the time,
doesn't mean
it's not as pleasurable, because you're not really breaking free, because you're already free. There's not that feeling of like sticking it to the man. Like, you're already free.
You can eat that whole pack of Oreos if you want. You know, you're free to do it, but like, should you? Do you know what I mean? Like, you'd rather not be allowed to eat the Oreos 6 days out of the week. Yeah.
But then on Saturday, your mum tells you, okay, here, have these Oreos. It's like, oh yes, like finally, you know, that little taste of freedom. But Jean-Paul Sartre said, "Man is condemned to be free." You know, is freedom really a blessing, or is it a curse?
I guess it just depends on how you really you use it. You know what I mean? Like I find, and going back to the kind of the like, you know, what's the point? We're all gonna die anyways. Like I find that an awful lot when it comes to being healthy. Like, you know, I smoke and I drink. You know, I have a few pints every so often. Do you know what I mean? And it's like that kind of voice in my head where it's like, you know, yeah, you know, it'd probably be good if, you know, you just completely got off drinking for, you know, a couple of months or whatever. But the other side of it is like, you know, but I'm young now, you know, and like I'm not taking absolute piss, but like even just, you know, once a week or once every 2 weeks waking up with a killer hangover or whatever, it's like, you know, that probably was, you know, not good for me at all. Yeah. And I know it's not, but it's also like, but especially more so with the climate of the world at the moment, the way things are going, it's like I would hate to have like missed out on a lot of stuff, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, yeah, okay, now there's going to be a fucking nuclear war, or climate change has really fucked us this time, or something or other, whether it's fucking man-made or not. Like, you know, that side of it is kind of like, you know, fuck it, man, have the extra pint, you know, stick around for an extra hour. Do you know what I mean? Like, whilst not taking the piss, because like I'm obviously not fucking out 7 nights a week sticking 10 grams of coke up my nose. If that's what you think, you should really fucking reflect on your life. But even just in a general sense, you know, healthiness is probably the main thing for me that is affected by that, because like, okay, I could be completely away from all that stuff, but it's just kind of like the only fulfillment I'd be getting is the fact that, like, you know, this is the right thing to do. It's not really a mental thing that's giving me any dopamine. It's just like, yeah, you know, smoking and drinking is bad for you, and eating shit food is bad for you, and plain simple. And that's a hard truth, fair enough. But you know what I mean? It's kind of like I would feel like I'm missing out on some level.
You're gonna suffer regardless.
Yeah.
It's like you said, you know, yes, you know, stick around and have the pint. You'll enjoy that, but you'll wake up with a hangover and a hole in your pocket, and your health, you've just like taken a hit on your health.
Yeah.
No, you did have fun. You could stay in, but if you stayed in, you would have been bored.
Yeah.
And you would have just been sitting there looking at the walls. So it's like, there's nothing that's. This is like kind of a bitter pill that I kind of realized when I was like probably 17 or 18. Is like, nothing is just good. Like, you never get to a point in life where everything is just good. Everything has an upside and a downside.
Oh, yeah.
And at this age, mate, the hangovers are vicious. Like,
Catch up, yeah.
I love drinking. I really do like going out and drinking, but the hangovers are so vicious. And it's not even just the like physical pain, it's the mental strife of knowing that, like, for the next day and a half, sometimes 2 days, I'm gonna be, for all intents and purposes, like paralyzed. Like, I can't move, I can't do anything, I can't work on projects, I can't go to the gym, I can't go out and socialize, because I'm just lying here, like, I'm just lying here, fucked up.
I feel like I've kind of figured out my formula, where if I fucking eat an exceptional amount of food before I go out, drink pints, and eat as well once throughout the night, and don't mix my drinks, just can stick with pints, I'll wake up usually. I'll be a bit groggy, but I'll be fine. But if I go out and, like, you know, barely ate, and then got to the point where I was kind of drunk enough where it's like, ah, fuck it, I'll drink whatever's there, and then wake up, usually, yeah, I'm gonna be fucking absolutely shattered, you know. So I've kind of learnt my lesson. It's kind of on me to be like, okay, maybe don't swallow down that last pint, because then you're gonna be fucking, you're not gonna go home, you know. Which I generally do. It's more when it's a celebration. It's like, ah, fuck it, go on, like, have a few shots or whatever. But yeah, look, it's something to probably be regulated more, because it's getting bad now. By the time you're like, my brother's like 30, he said like it's like 2 days for him now if he's hungover, you know. And I've heard it gets worse, you know what I mean? Unless you're gonna fucking be a full blown out. Because I'd wonder about like the alcoholics, say the guys you meet in the pub every time you're there, and they're there 7 days a week. It's like, do you get hungover? Like, you know, what?
Always wonder about those guys. Like, I don't know how. I almost have a sense of admiration for alcoholics, because it's like even like I'm working on a construction site at the minute, and there's this old motherfucker. He's about 50, oldish. He's always talking about how he drinks like a sailor, and he walks from Newcastle to Blythe, which is like an hour on the bus. So it must be like a 3-hour walk. and we start work at 9, and he's an alcoholic, and he's doing this walk. I'm like, how are you doing this? Like, if I drink, I literally can't. If I could not drink and even go into work the next day getting the bus.
Yeah.
Like if I'm drinking now, I have to have at least the next day off. You know what I mean?
Water to him at this point, like.
I don't know how, but like
That's the point where you don't. I'd rather be getting hangovers than getting to that point where I can just literally like drink, fall asleep, wake up, and be somewhat right. Like being hungover on some level is just me at a normal state. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
if it's not affecting me at all, that's probably scary. Like,
maybe you get to a point where, like when you're younger, you don't get hangovers. Maybe you get to a point where the hangovers get worse and they're worse and worse, and then they go down, and then just kind of plateaus where it's like you're almost so numb, like you build up a tolerance to being hungover,
Yeah.
or maybe your tolerance to drinking just gets, I don't know what the fuck, but yeah, alcoholics are I do see those guys in the bar. Like we've got a local pub here, and it's just like a local Spoons, and it's what you're saying. There's the same, just wrinkled, leathery skinned old timers that look like they've been drinking for 10 decades,
and they're probably like 51 or something, but they may as well be 78. Like,
yeah, and you do wonder, like, what do you do with yourself? Like, is this just you, like, just sitting in the bar all the time drinking? And that's like, what else would you do? Like, what else is there to life?
yeah, there's one guy in one of the pubs I go to, and like he's the same age as my father, and it's just like you can just see the difference between having drank for the last 4 years and having not drank for the last 4 years. My father's climbing fucking hills every second day and walking up mountains and shit, and this guy is fucking like pissing on the floor in the bathroom like it's shitting himself and stuff. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, this is just like technically a senile old man who probably has Alzheimer's, but like he's just left to run amok in a pub, you know? And like,
it's weird, mate. I mean, like I said, I love drinking, but when I worked in a bar, and when I was standing there like behind the bar at closing time, when they shut the doors and the lights come on and the bouncers are getting everyone out, and you see there'd be the occasional old guys that would just sit there and like not want to move, and they have to get dragged out by the bouncer, and you just think, fuck, that is pathetic. Like, if I'm there at that age, just put a shotgun on my mouth and see me off, like, because
it's
but
good
I'm worried.
at least, because it's like, okay, like I'd say myself and yourself probably drink at the average kind of young male level, but it's like, you know, it's a good kind of smack on the fucking wrist to be like, you know, you're fine at this rate, but like, you know, make sure. It just shows how easy it can become your entire fucking life, and it's not viewed as the same as being a heroin addict or a crack addict or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, there are people that are upstanding citizens but are severe alcoholics. Do you know what I mean? Like, they might have their life together on some level, but like, you know, what the fuck every single evening is, from as soon as they finish work, if they do work, is in there till closing time, and it's rinse repeat, and like, there has to be something hurting them inside, really, like, if that's what they have to do every day. Do you know what I mean? And they might, like, most of them don't even get pissed, man. It's just like they need to get their load of like 8 or 9 drinks, and then they're back home, and that's it. Like, and it's just kind of like, yeah, I like it as a novelty, or, you know, putting on a gig and having a few pints, or going there, you know, the odd time when there's just nothing to do. But like, for that to be your only mode of entertainment, it's scary. Like, and I don't think I could ever end up in that situation, because I already have that view of it where it's like, I don't want to be there, and I know it's, you know, no life at all. So I'm thankful enough for that. But of course, as well, there's probably loads of people who've thought that way and ended up, you know, the worst alcoholic in the room too. Like, so it's a stark reminder, anyways, to look after yourself in that regard.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's knowing your limits, and not a big thing for me is not casually drinking. Like, I'm drinking a little bit of cider here, but I'll go out after this and meet a few friends in town. But I have friends. I'm trying not to get to the point where I'm just coming back from work and having like 5 or 6 cans and going to bed.
Yeah.
I try to drink 3 to 4 times a month, but only if I'm meeting friends, or only if it's socially.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Never just like a few casual cans on my own. I think they say the 2 signs of an alcoholic are drinking on your own and drinking in the daytime.
Yeah.
So like, try to avoid that. But yeah, I mean, I think, like, I look at my dad. Me and my dad are like birds of a feather. We're exactly the same. And he has a decent handle on his drinking. Like he does drink, but it's not out of control.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be like, it's weird because we're so similar. It's like anytime I'm wondering like where I'll be at this age or what I'll think about this certain topic that we're discussing, I looked at my dad to see how he reacts, and I'm like, that's exactly how I would or slash will react.
Yeah.
Because we're so similar. Yeah, it's just it's knowing your limits and just not taking the piss. You know what I mean?
Not overdoing it, because as well, coke now is fucking rampant around the place. Like, and
Yeah.
it's like, at least I guess when I was in college and stuff like that, you're used to it being someone around your age who's got coke and they're offering it to you, and you kind of assume like it's just kind of a young person thing. But like now the pubs I'm in, there's a lot of like, it's always like the last guy you can think of. Like, it's like it could be I met some fucking some girl I went to primary school father in a bathroom in a pub, like, and
Father?
for her father, and I was like, oh, how like you're fucking what's her name's father? I was like, oh yeah. I was like, oh, I was in her class. I was like, yeah. And he's like chatting away, kind of just general stuff, and I'm still looking at him like I was when I was like 8 or 9. There's like I
I
guess
know what you mean,
there's
yeah.
a certain level of respect you have there when it's like, okay, I knew you when I was a kid, and obviously I was a bit, kind of wary around you, so I'll have that same level of respect as opposed to a stranger. And next thing he just whips out, you want a bump? And I'm just like, what the
Yeah,
fuck? Like, I'm like, it's fucking everyone. It's rampant, and the amount of
I
people that
know.
are casually hooked on it is fucking bad. Like,
Yeah, coke is so casual. I always thought when I was a kid, I always thought cocaine was like a few like celebrities did it and then like
bad guys.
criminals did it. But I came to uni and I was like, holy fuck, literally everyone does coke and ket. Like the even like the like the nerdy like mother, those girls who are like introverted nerds, like
Yeah.
kind of like mother hen types.
Yeah.
They're doing it. The goths are doing it. The jocks, the soft boys, they're all doing it. And like that was a big thing for me. That was a like big coming of age moment. Was when I started going out to bars and seeing like teachers, family friends. I'm like, holy shit, we're in the same realm now. This is like, I'm a grown up. Like that was the feeling. That was like the first kind of like a coming of age moment where I'm like,
That is it's a cool,
not even,
it's kind of an interesting thing where it's like now I'm the same age as teachers and guards and
yeah,
people who have proper jobs, whereas like it's kind of it's always viewed as something above you when you're a kid and a teenager, because teachers are all adults and shit, you know what I mean? But now like I have mates who are my age who are teachers and stuff like that, and I meet them out and stuff like that, and it is strange. It's like they're just like everybody else in a sense. Like, it's just
terrifying, mate.
and it makes
But
sense
we're all
why teachers and guards, etc., were such fucking dickheads. It's like, like, that's they're the type of people that become those fucking people that get those jobs.
Oh man, you're spitting facts there. Yeah, I always think that like it's terrifying because when you're a kid, you kind of look to teachers and police officers and stuff. You're like, they're figures of authority.
Yeah.
The world it just goes to show you that like no human being is running the show. No one's really in charge. Like police, teachers, parents, government officials, they're just some guy. They're all just some guy who randomly decided to pursue this line of career to make money or because they had an interest in it or whatever it is, but they're all just some random fuckers that there's no, I don't know, it scares me a little bit like to realize that there's no real authority amongst human beings. It's all just socially constructed.
And there's the same kind of general motivation behind it too. Like, it's like, for me, like, I know a couple of guys who became guards, and it's like, these guys were drug takers, drug sellers. They'd gotten in trouble with the guards themselves plenty of times. You know what I mean? And it's like, like, it makes sense. Like, the motivation, you can see what the motive is. It's like, oh yeah, well, I kind of knew it wasn't, I want to uphold the law and look after society. It's like, I want to abuse power and I'm a fucking dickhead, so I'm going to join the guards. It's like, that makes sense. And with teachers, like, not necessarily as grotesque as that, but like generally people I wouldn't get along with on a day-to-day basis. It's like, yeah, you know, I mean, that makes sense, you know, why you've become a
I
teacher.
don't know why people become teachers. I don't know what the motivation is there. I can understand police definitely, but I don't think teachers is necessarily about like wanting to push people around, because there were good teachers, like
Yeah,
there
not
were some,
necessarily, but I feel like it develops over time. You know, it's like if you go in into it and you're a certain kind of person, it's like it's inevitable that you're going to become a certain kind of dickhead as a teacher. Like, of course, yeah, some of them were decent, and I was a fucking messer in school, so I obviously pissed off a lot of decent teachers too. But yeah, it's just at least from my experience, I can see that kind of element to it, where it's like, yeah, like, you know, you wouldn't have any hassle fucking, you know, tearing some kid's head off. Whereas, you know, others, it's like, yeah, you know, you wouldn't, so that's why you didn't get into that job.
mm, yeah, yeah, but it is it's weird seeing it, like kids as well. To see them having kids, like I look at certain people, certain contemporaries of mine, they're having kids, and I'm just like, you shouldn't be having kids, bro. There should be some kind of test. I mean, there's a test to drive a car, you know. Why is there not a test? Why is there not some kind of
And I
system that we have where it's like
it sounds like.
you can only have a kid if you meet this criteria?
Yeah, on some level, but I feel like it's kind of like communism. Like, it works in theory, but someone's gonna abuse that power. And next thing, like, you could be the most decent person on the planet, they're just telling you can't have children. You know, I would never like. I wouldn't like, generally from my experience, like a lot of the people that I feel like shouldn't have kids are the ones who are having kids, and the couples that I look at, it's like, oh, you guys would make good parents. They're like, we're not gonna have kids, or like, you know, we probably won't. It's like, that's a shame, you know. Unfortunately, that's how it seems to be a lot of the time. So we were just talking about kids there. So I was going to ask you, like, what are your views? Are you going to reproduce?
Kids?
Are you going to reproduce with the old Mickey if you get the chance with the right woman, or are you going to save the environment by not having children, extending your legacy?
That's an interesting one. So that's yeah. I mean, I do. It's a good question. Let me sit with that. Let me sit with that for a couple of moments. I do have that anti-natalist streak in me, which is like, yeah, the idea that it's morally wrong to reproduce because you're bringing children into a world of suffering.
Yeah, fair.
And if I did have kids, it would be purely for selfish reasons. It would be purely because I'm at a point in life where I'm bored. I need to switch things up, and having kids would be a way to do that.
Yeah.
So if I did have kids, it wouldn't be like, oh, I feel like I'm doing the right thing. I'm continuing the human race. I'm replicating my DNA. It wouldn't be any of that, or leaving a legacy. I don't care about legacy, because when I'm dead, I'm dead.
Yeah.
It would be purely because I think it would give me a sense of
New life.
It would give me a sense of purpose for the remainder of my existence.
Yeah. I never
Do you know
really
what I mean?
that side of things, like, because I'm not a fucking Jordan Peterson head or whatever, but one quote I've seen him say was like, life gets pretty lonely and boring when you're 40, you know, and you can't just keep, you know, the stuff that's entertaining us now will eventually get old, just like anything else, and it does give you a new lease on life. Like, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't disagree it's for selfish reasons, but if it is a selfish thing, it's certainly not the most selfish thing you can do. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, that's not the best description, but like,
I know what you mean. It's
well,
not hedonistic, so
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not purely selfish. No, I do. I understand that.
yeah. I don't think people are purposely doing it for any bad reasons. A lot of the case, like me personally, like I want to, but I'm responsible enough not to just do it for the sake of it. You know, I'm not going to just have kids because I want kids. Like, it's got to be, you know, the right woman or whatever, and I need to be financially, you know, viable to look after a child. And you know, I think I definitely need to go through a couple more years of just living and maturity and kind of get things out of my system first, you know, before I do that, which is something a lot of people don't think of. Like, a lot of people just don't even think before they realize you're about to create a living being that doesn't know how to do anything, and essentially everything you do is going to have an effect on them, whether it be negative or positive. And it's very easy for like, simple things we take for granted now to affect a child negatively, so I've
Mhm.
seen a lot of that with people I know who are young parents and just doing stuff where I'm like, yeah, no, I don't agree with that at all, like, you know what I mean? And kind of and a lot of people don't think of that, like, say, like, maybe a party, or going back to their house after a few drinks or whatever. It's like, no one else thinks to like shut the fuck up. There's a kid asleep upstairs. It'd be like, should there really be a bunch of us fucking drinking in the sitting room, roaring and screaming? It's like, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm kind of here because you invited me, but on some level, I'm like, I probably shouldn't be, because I have a bit of a moral issue with it, like, especially if they're very young. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I mean, I don't think that you should be a boring old biddy if you've got a 6-year-old at home.
Mhm.
But there's ways to do it and ways not to do it, and I've definitely seen a lot of that where it's like, yeah, I don't agree with this. Like, you've got fucking a kid running around, there's a bunch of people here drinking, like, and I guess maybe at some level it's is it just kind of a bias where it's like, 6 25-year-olds drinking isn't the same, and it isn't the same as 45-year-olds with kids, like they might have as many drinks, but it's just kind of not the same kind of wild vibe generally.
No, no, no. It's more controlled. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot more controlled. So like, yeah, I definitely, I'm thankful I've gotten that kind of experience, because I didn't really have it at home. Like, it was always very steady and quiet. You know what I mean? There was none of that shit.
Aye.
My parents were a lot older. Like, my father was in his late 30s when he had me. You know what I mean? So, they probably had all that shit out of their system. So yeah, no,
Mhm.
I want to have kids, but I really want to have kids, but I definitely know I need to tick a few boxes first before I do that. And if it doesn't
Yeah.
happen, I'll accept that, if it doesn't happen at the right time. Because I do kind of have a clock as well. I don't want to be having my first child when I'm 39. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be chasing a 5-year-old around when I'm in the 40s. Like, I'd like it to be, mid 30s at the very latest, really. You know what I mean?
I think like 32 is a good age to like have a kid.
Yeah.
32 for sure. And how many would you have? Would you have
Like,
enough for three, or would you just
if it was ideal times, yeah, I'd love to have 3 or 4. But of course, nowadays, it's a bigger fucking deal. Times are
gotta get the
tough,
money right first? Yeah.
like, So I mean, one would be fucking great. And if things are okay and it wasn't such a difficulty, some people just have a rough time with parenting, and they're like, yeah, it's fair enough. Like, in theory, they'd like more kids, but they can tell, like, it's not for them in terms of the amount of work you have to put in, which is fair. So
Mhm.
on the surface level, I can say I'd love to have 3 or 4 kids, but I don't know what it's going to be like. No matter how fucking much I want to be a parent, doesn't mean I'll like not necessarily do a bad job, but it takes a certain more of a toll on people than it does others, whether or not they're a good or bad parent. If you think that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's weird because, mate, in my head, I'm still a fucking rug rat myself. Like,
Yeah.
I genuinely still feel I don't. For me, it's not about money or necessarily like what your official age is. It's how mature do you feel in your mind. And at this, I still feel not. Let me not say I feel like a kid, but I still feel immature. I still feel juvenile. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
don't feel like I'm ready to bear that responsibility.
There was a part of that film American Beauty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a great
Really, really
movie.
good film. And a part that kind of spoke to me was when, like, he's describing to his daughter that, like, the voice inside your head doesn't just magically grow up and change. Like, you are the same person at heart, that the same person as you were when you were 21. It's just, life happens, and there's layers built up around you, and you're like, locked into you're backed into a corner where it's like, okay, I'm a parent now. I have to basically cut off this part of my brain. And okay, I've got a
Yeah.
job now, so this part of my brain's gone as well. And this, that, and the other. Um,
Aye.
and I was like, oh yeah, that kind of really makes sense. Like, I don't in any level really feel any different than I did the last 5 years. And I can't imagine just turning 30 is going to be like, okay, now I'm a totally different person.
I know.
So, like, I guess it's kind of it depending on the person, having a kid will kick you into gear or not. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I've seen it go both ways. Some people just cop the fuck on straight away, and they just, they change, they morph to a new person, and other people just stay the same, and it's gonna fucking
Man,
generally reflect.
that's the thing. I was watching I don't know if you ever saw Rowan Atwood, YouTuber back in the day. He was like one of these prank YouTubers, like he did all these pranks, but before like it was a big thing.
Yeah,
And he was saying that like he was saying the most money he made was in the first year that he had his son, because it's what you were saying. It kicked him into gear. Like it it forced his feet to the fire. Where he was like, okay, I've got a kid now. It forces you to wise up in a way.
Yeah,
because it's like there's
you're a
another
decent
one of.
person, of course.
So I think like I think I don't know. Should you wait until you're financially stable, or should you have the kid and then let that drive you to become financially stable? And the other thing is, I think people overestimate how much money you need to raise a kid. Like,
Right.
they eat slop for the first 4 years of their lives.
You don't need to buy them fucking Nikes or an iPad. You know, that's just something people choose to fucking do. Like,
Yeah, you choose to do that. You choose to get them all the teddy bears and the, different colors of blankets and stuff. But realistically, like, you can just have your child live a minimalistic life for the first few years. Now, once they get to like 9, 10, 11, you got a problem because they want all the gizmos and they want like Christmas gifts. But you've got like I think you've got like a 5-year grace period
yeah,
where you can kind of just give them bread and butter.
yeah, it's
They're not going to complain.
there's definitely that kind of element like that our generation kind of nearly looks down upon. Like, it's like my family wasn't poor by any means, but like, I still like wore hand-me-downs for the first like 12 years of my life. Do you know what I mean? Like all my
Yeah.
football boots, a lot of my shoes. I still have some hand-me-downs, like, from my older brother that still fit me, like,
Mhm.
and I'd have no shame in, like, you can just save money if you're just like, hey, does anyone have a fucking stroller there they don't need anymore? And you know what I mean?
Uh,
Fucking baby clothes, because they're gonna grow out of them in no time. So yeah, there is that element too where it's like people are just stupid with their money, and it's like, why does your fucking 6-month-old need Nike shoes? Like, and realistically, I'm not in the minority here. It's like your kid doesn't need a fucking iPad, and you're only giving the kid the iPad just because you want to look at your own fucking iPad. And
yeah. Or
I
you want to look good to the other families in your area.
yeah,
You're trying to impress them. Look at what my kids got. Look at what I got.
couldn't give a
The
shit
kid
about that.
doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, and neither
The
do I.
kid,
Like, and no one should, like what the
the
fuck, you know
kid
what
is
I mean?
impotent.
The kid's a fucking fashion accessory these days, like,
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, I see so many people like but that, to be fair, right? That is a genuine flex. Like, I think having a kid is an honorable
Yeah.
feat, like, to have a kid. But I do see a lot of people do that as well. Where it's like they flex their kid, like
Well, yeah, it depends,
it is a flex, but you shouldn't flex them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, well, like, it's kind of a case of like, you can usually tell it's like you're flexing that kid that probably will go on to do great things because you're a great parent and you've got a certain background. But there's other ones like you're flexing that kid who's going to be in jail in 12 years and
Yeah.
probably be in and out just like daddy over and over and over again. And
Yeah.
that's another thing I really can't understand, the whole like, I willingly got impregnated by a fucking guy who's been jailed to jail 4 times, and but wow, he turned out to be a bad father. Like, like, it's like, what possesses you to do that? It's like,
breaking news. The previously incarcerated thug with neck tattoos
I know.
it turned out to be a problematic spouse. Yeah.
Because as a guy, like, and I think I don't look at a girl who, like, I meet a girl who's been to jail 4 times. I'm like, yeah, I definitely don't want to impregnate you or marry you or date you. I don't know. Girls kind of take that bad boy thing too far sometimes, where it's like,
Well, women. Oh shit, my laptop's on low battery. The thing with they like the confidence that those men have. Like, because if you're a criminal, if you're a drug dealer or like just a problematic human being, there's an element of like confidence that is required to be that. Do you know what I mean? You can't be coy and be
bad boy.
like walking about with a strap. You know what I mean? But I think ideally women would rather have somebody who's high confidence and high empathy, but they would rather high confidence and low empathy than high empathy and low confidence. Do you know what I mean? It's like those dark triad traits. Women like dark triad traits like narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy.
I think as well, it depends on the environment you come from. If they're the men you kind of grew up around, then when you're older, they're probably going to be the men you're attracted to. And same with women, I guess. You know, it's kind of like it just tends to rub off on you. You know what I mean? Like your parents and your kind of surroundings set so many values with you, whether you like it or not. And
Yeah.
you could be the biggest rebel ever, but naturally, you're probably going to adopt your parents' personality on some level. You know, so unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's the effect it has. You know, you are probably as a man or a woman, you're probably looking for your mother or your father in some level in a partner if you've had a
Unconsciously,
good
yeah.
one or had a bad one. Unconsciously, it doesn't mean you want to shag your fucking parents, like, but
Well,
you know,
that's that Sigmund Freud, isn't it? There
yeah.
is this idea that subconsciously we do want to kill our fathers and sleep with our mothers. You get this complex in it.
Yeah, yeah. Sadly, I'm not an Oedipus guy, unfortunately.
No, I don't believe that at all for a second. But
But yeah, that there is an element to it, yeah, where you know, even for me, like when it comes to partners or whatever, like, you know, it's like good personality traits or skills or whatever things that my mother exerted, you know, and I see in other women, I'll be like, you know, plus sign, do you know what I mean?
yeah,
For that, you know. So again, whether you've had a negative or positive parental parent or guardian in your life, it will unfortunately on some level affect the partners you look for. Even if you're like, I never want to date that kind of person, a lot of those people do end up with that kind of person somehow, and it's weird like that.
yeah. On paper, like in theory, they don't want it, but in practice, they get caught off guard on it.
Yeah, I really wonder how that works. I never understood it, like, because I know I've known a few people who just like continuously gone back over and over and over and over to the same kind of characters. And it's like,
Mhm.
how does that work? Surely the seventh time your brain goes, this isn't working. Probably shouldn't go out with someone who hits me. Probably shouldn't go out with someone who's fucking addicted to crack. Like, that's what my brain would tell me anyway. But thankfully, I've never had an attraction to women who beat me. Like,
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's a weird one. Yeah, I think it's tough, especially nowadays in the Western world, to find good women.
well, I
But
think
maybe that's me making excuses. Maybe I'm saying that to myself
yeah.
as an excuse so that I don't actually try. Do you know what I mean?
I think, and I was saying this to someone recently. I think the likes of Tinder and Hinge and all that shit, they give you the wrong notion of how many people out there will actually, you know, are compatible with you. Like I'd say, because like throughout life, like there probably is only going to be like 4 or 5 people if you're lucky that you're going to truly be compatible with. Like I think, you know, matching with 100 people on fucking Tinder kind of gives you the notion there isn't that many fish in the sea. There's plenty of people you can have sex with and plenty of people you can have good time with, but like how many people you can actually like settle down with, spend 20 years with, and have kids with is fucking few and far between.
Yeah.
And people don't kind of like. I'm very much someone who's like when I'm kind of getting into a relationship, like I'm obviously not thinking like, oh yeah, you know, I want to have kids with you, but I have to tick that box in my head where it's like, well, you know, if it came to it, yeah, I think you'd, you know, be a good mother at some point and good partner, and we could, you know, live together and et cetera, even early on, you know.
Mhm.
If I get the red flag early on, it's like, okay, like this, I don't think this will work in the long term, then I'll usually settle for that, you know. um so it's definitely something that comes up in my head when I'm kind of going into that situation, and I don't feel like a lot of people do that because they kind of think it's irrational to be even thinking about like those kind of things at the beginning stages. Which may like it's, you know, there's a difference between thinking about it in the back of your head and then going like, oh yeah, do you think you'd marry me? Like, do you think you'd have 7 kids with me? Like, when are we moving in together? Like, then you're probably crazy. But I think people should really reflect on that kind of stuff, especially if you've gone through a few relationships and you want stuff to work. Um, Going from girlfriend to girlfriend or boyfriend to boyfriend certainly is not the solution, and you're not going to get anywhere doing that. You know, you kind of it's a tricky situation. Like you have to kind of come back from it, whether you were the person who was dumped or the person who dumped the partner.
Mhm.
Self-reflection has to be taken into account, and plenty of time and space if you do intend on going for it again at some point. You know.
Yeah. I think dating apps in general are just something to be avoided.
Yeah, I don't use them.
They're they're not good. And the other thing is like your self-esteem will take hits on those apps. If you're not like in the top, I think they say, yeah, the top 77% of women select from the top 22% of men.
Yeah.
So you have all these women selecting from a very small pocket of men, and the rest of us are just stood around scratching our heads, thinking we look like fucking Nosferatu. You know what I mean? Like, but the thing is, as well, like these women don't realize that 22% of men that you're going after, they're not going to commit to you
No.
because men are biologically wired to be promiscuous. So they're just going to sleep around with all the women in that 77%, not commit. And then the women are left going, why does every man leave me? Why do they all walk out?
Yeah.
So it's like this weird thing. It's you can't win. Like, I don't think a lot of like the red pill guys say women get it easier in the dating marketplace. A lot of women, like the girl boss movement, say that men get it easier. I don't think anyone gets it easier. I think there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, it's hard for people to acknowledge. It's acknowledge that side of things, but yeah, no, there's definitely pros to being on both sides and cons to being on both sides.
Yeah, nobody gets life on easy mode. There's always an element of suffering. It just manifests differently.
Yeah, I find like with Tinder and stuff like that, if you're not just a typically conventionally attractive guy, you know, who ticks the main typical boxes, you know, gym, job, car, you know, probably his own place, it's probably not going to work out for you. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you or you're fucking ugly or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, I find it so much better, man, to meet someone in person, you know. And like, I feel like as well with a dating site, it puts the pressure of like, you know, it's like a fucking job interview, you know. It's like you can only know this person so much through text, and like straight away going into a date, just kind of it is quite like a job interview. Whereas with me, it's so much better when it's like you meet someone just totally by random, and there's no pressure or any of that energy, and then like slowly it develops. And you're like, oh, actually, this person,
it's sporadic.
Yeah,
it's about vibes. It's not about the whole social charade where it's you're in your head. When you go on a date, both parties are in their head.
Yeah,
the guy's like, well, I want to be nice, but I don't want to be too nice. I don't want to give her the ick. I want to be funny, but not goofy. And the girl's like, I don't want to be too easy, but I don't want to make him think I'm not interested.
Yeah.
So it's like this, it's just this like social charade where you're both trying to play these kind of games with each other. And what you said is 100% spot on. It's better when it's natural, it's sporadic. It's not forced. A relationship isn't supposed to be, you're not supposed to go out looking for a relationship. It's supposed to just come to you naturally, and then you move with the rhythm, you know?
Yeah. There's more understanding too, because I found so many times where like you could say something or they could say something and either of you could take it the wrong way because you don't know the person. Whereas like, you know, if you've known them for a couple of weeks at least or a few months, like you could say something casually and they're not going to take it up the wrong way whatsoever. You know, it's like, oh, I didn't mean this, I didn't mean that, and all of a sudden the fucking mood is half spoiled because you interpreted something or you misinterpreted something. You know,
I've made that mistake a lot because like sometimes I have this. It sounds weird, but like I have this thing where like sometimes like if I'm with someone that I don't really know, I'll like say like on a date, or like a homeless guy stopped me the other day and like ended up talking to me for like half a mile. And in my head, I'm like, I'm talking to him, like imagining that my friends are there laughing at what I'm saying to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like I'm making jokes that they would find funny because we have this like humor that we've developed over half a decade.
Could be an alien language to someone else, like.
Yeah, but this guy thinks I'm reading off the Voynich manuscripts. You know what I mean? And it's the same on dates. Sometimes I'll be on a date because my humor is so eccentric and just kooky and fucking autistic that. But like that's me. That's what I find funny. So I think sometimes if I'm on a date or if I'm at a job interview or meeting someone for the first time, I focus too much on like self-amusement. Like amusing myself,
That is yourself, you know, and if the date is going the right way, then you can be yourself. And they're always the ones that go successfully. Like the ones that turned out into relationships for me were the ones where the first date I like, you know, relaxed enough to be completely myself, and we both had a great laugh and had a great time. And by the end of it, we were both sad to go home. Whereas the ones that haven't gone successfully is like I could tell now if I, you know, turned it up a notch or was a bit too, you know, this way or that way, it'd probably piss her off or annoy her, or she'd be
Yeah.
confused or whatever. And you know, same on their in their sense too. Like, you know, you can see if they're being reserved or not. So I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. You know, I do believe in kind of going straight in with it.
And
If at the
just being
beginning,
yourself from
yeah.
the jump
But
unapologetically.
if they want to get up and fuck off, then fire away. Do you know what I mean? You're dodging a bullet. It might be annoying, you know, initially, but in the long run, it's like, well, yeah, I'm glad she did it then, as opposed to 6 months' time when we're in bed together. Do you know?
Yeah. I think though, I think you do have to tailor yourself a little bit depending on what environment you're in and who you're talking to.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just don't do that. I just don't do that at all. I just like I'll talk sometimes like I'll talk to anyone like I'm talking to a friend. I'll be in a job interview and I'm talking to him like he's a friend. And then the other way, sometimes I'll be talking to a friend like I'm in a job interview and I'm just like asking him questions like because I'm genuinely a curious person. Like I want to ask questions, but I want to have banter at the same time. I don't want to be having a social interaction like it's a questionnaire. But sometimes I do slip into that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find it hard to read like what the vibe is, like what the mood is, how I should react to this person.
Yeah. I'd say I'm usually pretty straightforward at, like, you know, even if I meet a stranger and they're like, there was a guy I met recently in a pub, and like kept asking me questions about music, and like I'd get, you know, 2 seconds into the sentence and then he'd ask me another question, or he'd answer it for me, and I was like, at first I was like, I'll give this guy the benefit of the doubt, and eventually I was like, I don't have to talk to this guy at all. So I was like, man, you're annoying the fuck out of me. Just turned around and walked off. Like, you know what I mean? Just be straight up with it. Like, so I'd be very much would be like, and it's handy to be like that, man, because people deal with a lot of bullshit. And I'm not saying you have to be out there and be provocative and be the thick cunt, but like, just so much bullshit people just will just passively just take and deal with, that just all it takes is for you to stand up here, fuck off, go away, shut up, leave us alone.
I know, and I do think that a lot. Sometimes I'll be talking to someone, I'm like, man, I don't care. Like I just wanna I'm trying to get back home and work on something like, but I think that at the same time it's kind of selfish, do you know what I mean? I think that the world would be a miserable place if you were always like that.
Yeah.
Because no one, like, I think you have to have an element of social etiquette. I don't naturally like social etiquette, but I understand that if we didn't have it, the world would just be a much more miserable place. If you just said fuck off, I don't want to talk to you
Well, like,
anytime
I wasn't
somebody
really
asks
talking about, like, I wasn't really talking about, say, like, someone who's like, you know, chewing the ear off you in a pub and they're kind of being annoying. Like, I wouldn't be like fuck off to them, but like, just if people are acting up, you know what I mean? They're getting in your face. You know, they're potentially bringing aggression to the situation, or just, you know, acting up. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people will just turn the blind eye and let them continue and continue. It just doesn't take much to be like,
Mm.
here, cop the fuck on. And like, in some cases, not necessarily directly, but I've had like mates of mine like say, come over and be yourself, and this person will fuck off. Like, just start being yourself, like, and like, I just come in and start being loud and being annoying or whatever, and like
Oh, yeah.
acting the maggot, and then eventually this person will be like, oh fuck this, I can't do this, and they leave. It's like, yeah, thanks for that, man.